Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And hey, everybody. Thanks for attending. As Mark said, my name is Greg. I am a graduate of Bentley undergrad and graduate school. So let's kick us off. I'm going to talk a little bit today about my history in tech and also some of the stuff I'm working on at Spotify. I always like to ask the question, who here uses Spotify? But if you are not using Spotify right now, I really wonder if you live under a rock or something like that. So I won't even ask that question for y'all, but we'll get into it right here. Just get this going. What happened to my screen? Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Like I mentioned, I'm Greg. I graduated from Bentley College in 2007. That dates me very back. I took Mark's class back then when we were doing Pocket PC was the thing we were developing for back in the day. iPhones didn't even exist yet. That's really dating myself from that end. After graduating, I went back to school right after and got my MS in IT. And it's funny that what happened during the 2007, 2008, Bentley University was formed. So I have an undergrad degree from Bentley College, and my graduate degree is from Bentley University. So two separate diplomas, two different schools from that perspective there. I worked at various companies after school. I worked for KPMG for a little while, then worked over at ABC News here in New York City. I was doing web development stuff. But during that time, I actually founded my first company called Untapped, which is a beer social network, essentially like a Facebook for beer, for lack of a better word. People can kind of check in what beer they're having, where they're having it, and share with their friends. I started back in 2010, and we were acquired in 2016, and then again in 2022. So it was a crazy ride from building a company from a small idea that I had with a friend of mine to a 200-person company and then selling it across the board. So it was a great experience building a company from the ground up and engineering-wise, technology-wise, and leadership-wise from that end. Since then, I've worked in various startups like Mark has mentioned. I work for a company called HipCamp, which is a two-way marketplace for campers. Essentially, if you heard of Airbnb, it's like the same thing, but for camping. And then, most recently, my recent startup that I've worked at is a Lego app, which you probably see by the pictures behind me. Is a social media app for tracking your Lego collection and sharing with your friends. But more importantly, where I work right now, I work for Spotify and the Spotify for Artists area. Essentially, this is the group that is responsible for devising the product that's called Spotify for Artists, which is a tool that's being used by artists to see all their metrics, information, demographics, see how their streams are loading, where they're most popular, and then look at more analytical decisions on who listeners are across the board. If you guys have ever heard of Spotify Wrapped, I also work on that particular product as well. We have a version of that particular product for artists, which shows them all of their streams for a particular year, their top listeners, and those type of things across the board. For me, one of the things I learned a lot at Bentley was around the idea of technology solves real world problems. I think that when you learn a lot in school, you follow textbooks and you read about queries and you read about optimizations, but a lot of the stuff you see in the real world of trying to solve problems with technology. And for me, some of the things I learned from Bentley is around the Untapped app, where I was one day at a bar with my friends and I was like, what beer should I drink? And I used some of the technology in terms that I learned at Bentley to figure out that, hey, I could build an app that people could use to find what beer they're looking for and get recommendations and reviews across the board. So you have a very good access to a lot of great ideas that can happen in every day. Again, I'm dating myself back to 2007. There were no smartphones back there. So you're living in a very golden age when it comes to some of the stuff that we work on from a technology perspective from that end. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell of where I came from, what I've been working on across the board. Most of the work that I've been doing recently has been remote, so I'm a big proponent of remote work across the board. So while Spotify does have offices in New York City and mainly in Stockholm and Europe, I work remotely here in Connecticut, and Hartford, Connecticut is where I'm located from that area. So I've not strayed far from the Bentley campus from that perspective over the years that I've been out of there from that end. So cool. Let's go on to Spotify for Artists. Let me pause the recording here.